Did you know you can sue the IRS for a refund? I'm Andrew Bosserman, former IRS agent and tax attorney at Boss Tax Law. And in this video, I'm going to explain how you can sue the IRS if they're refusing or delaying in issuing you a refund. So, it's a common situation. You've overpaid your taxes and filed some sort of claim for refund, whether you were due a credit or just having to overpay them or there was some other issue. But the IRS and its governmental bureaucracy is just not paying out your refund. What are your options? You could sit around and wait for them to issue the refund. You could try to resolve it internally through IRS channels, such as reaching out to a taxpayer advocate or continuing to call the IRS phone number. But if you're due a substantial refund and you don't want to rely on the internal workings of the IRS to resolve the issue, your best option may be to sue the IRS by filing a refund lawsuit. So, first off, you can't just immediately sue the IRS if you are owed a refund. You have to wait for a few things to happen. So, first of all, you must have filed a return or other document with the IRS, and I'll go into that, claiming a refund. The IRS has to either denied your refund claim or it's been 6 months since you submitted that claim and the IRS hasn't responded yet. And you also must have timely filed your claim for refund. And timely filing the claim for refund means you generally must have filed that refund claim the later of 3 years from when the original tax return was due, or 2 years from when the date you paid the tax, whichever is later. And also there's a timeline for filing the refund suit. But those are the requirements. But let's now talk about, where do you sue the IRS? There's lots of courts out there. You may have heard of tax court, but actually you can't sue the IRS for a refund in tax court. Currently, tax court cases are limited to if you owe a deficiency. That means if the IRS says you owe money but you haven't paid it yet. If you are suing for a refund, meaning you already paid the tax but you are suing to get it paid back to you, you have two options. You can either file in U.S. District Court or the U.S. Court of Federal Claims. So tax court isn't an option here, but either of those two federal courts will work. Like I said, you'll pick one of those two courts, file a lawsuit there, and you will go through the litigation process in the courts. Oftentimes cases, like in tax court, settle before, but you may have to go through a full trial. And generally it costs a little more to try a case in either district court or the Court of Federal Claims because it's a little more formal than, say, tax court. Tax court has some really relaxed procedures. But here's start to finish what the process is like. So remember, first you must have filed a claim for refund, and normally that's on an amended tax return, or you may file Form 843 requesting a refund of taxes, penalties, or interest. Then, remember, you have to wait for a response from the IRS. You have to give them at least 6 months to respond to your claim. If they deny it, or if they don't process it at all, don't respond, then you can sue in one of those two federal courts. Then that's when you file what's called a complaint. It's a legal document that gets the lawsuit process started in either U.S. District Court or the Court of Federal Claims, and that begins the refund lawsuit process. So, filing a refund suit, obviously this is serious. You're filing a lawsuit, suing the IRS. It can be time consuming, and like I said, it's more expensive than other options. But if the IRS owes you a large refund, which we're currently seeing now in a lot of employee retention credit or ERC claims that just aren't being paid out, or maybe you accidentally overpaid a bunch of taxes or paid penalties which can actually or should have been abated, totaling possibly a few $100,000 at least, then it may be worth it to file a refund lawsuit. So this is just a quick overview of refund lawsuits. If you're due a refund and the IRS hasn't been moving on it, or your claim was denied and want to hop to filing a refund lawsuit, it's definitely something you should consider and discuss with a qualified tax attorney. If you're thinking about filing a refund lawsuit, feel free to reach out and I'm happy to discuss your options with you, whether we try to get your refund back through the normal IRS channels or file a lawsuit and force the IRS to face us in court. So thanks again for watching, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.